So let's get started. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for attending. So the language is going to be English. Whatever I can do with that. We're here to talk about artificial intelligence and in general, and an extension that we are just releasing today that tries to use the available APIs, artificial intelligence APIs that are available. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about today. My name is Yannick Gaultier. I have a nice type, so I'm going to use it. Yeah. I am from a company called Weber, and I've been around for a while doing professional first as a hobby, professional extensions, first as a hobby, and then since around 2009 as my main day-to-day job. We now have a full range of extensions. You can see I like the number 4. So there are no. I do an SEO extension, so it's called 4SEO. I do a Ceph URL extension. It's called 4Ceph. I have a 4 podcast extension. I have 4 video, 4 logs, and today we are releasing 4 AI. In the past, I've been focusing a lot on SEO and content. In the past, I've been developing an extension called SH4 for Ceph, which some of you may have heard or used or liked or didn't like, I don't know. So I've been around. We also have what you can see here, which is, yeah, of course, this is not working anymore. Yeah, anyway. A Chrome and Firefox SEO extension. This is a free of charge extension that you can use in your browser to gives you a lot of information about everything SEO on any pages, really, on any website. So you can use that. So today I'm going to talk about 4AI, but I would like to get started by sort of doing a roundup of what AI is, because it's a very wide term. Everybody has heard about it or is speaking about it, and there are news coming out every day. So it's useful to have a little chat. It can be a chat because I'm not like the deepest or the strongest scientist in the field. I have some information. I've been working with AI for a few months now, developing extensions, but everybody has their own opinion and take on that. So I'm very much open to feedback on what you think and how you want to use and how you think you can be using it. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the changing landscape in search engines, because we're all doing websites, and all of this is affecting how we're going to do websites, how we are going to do SEO, and how people are going to find our websites, how people or whether they are going to find it. So this is an interesting topic to discuss as well. And finally, if everything goes well, I'll show you how I think we can use AI today inside of Joomla. And again, if everything goes well, I can show you how it works in practice. This is a demo, and on an extension that's released today. So you can expect things to go wrong, but well, we'll see. So what do we call AI today? Because AI is something that's been around for a long time. It all started, what we hear about today, it started roughly in 2017 by the development essentially by Google people of what's called transformers. And that's that was at the time a very new technology that's really came up as a breakthrough that changed everything. From their motivation at the time was translating text from one language to another, because obviously they have a big problem. That's something they really want to do. That evolved in that sort of split into two things. What's called BERT and GPT in 2018. BERT and GPT being two parts of what a transformer is. Without going into the details, transformer is a decoder that tries to understand things. Then that's why it's called attention. There's a thing that decides how interesting each bit of information is. And then there's an encoder that creates stuff based on that. So there are three main blocks. And GPT and BERT is mostly dealing with the first part, decoding, and that helps with classification. And GPT, the one things we are all hearing about, is the second part, the encoder things. sorry, I inverted that, the encoder and the decoder. And it's really good at predicting the next word in a sequence. That's what GPT is doing. It takes words, or they don't use words, they use something called tokens, but they have a very large knowledge of texts, essentially, and images, as you know. And they try to predict what is going to be the next word in a series. Everything you see when you go into ChatGPT, that's what it's doing, just predicting the next word in a sentence. And until last year, this was mostly used internally by larger company. Google obviously has a lot of things like that. BERT, MUM, you may have heard lots of acronyms there. They were doing speech recognition. Many companies like Google, but also Facebook, Microsoft, all the big companies are using that. And translation a lot. And then starting last year, we got quite a few things happening. We got a few developed tools, GitHub Copilot. I'm sure some of you use GitHub Copilot. There are a few other options, Tab 9, but they kind of disappeared in the void because Copilot has taken all the room, all the space. And then the images. That was the first foray into really the general global audience creating images, because that's really spectacular. And then at the end of 2022, there was ChatGPT, which appeared, and it was brilliant because it appeared intelligent. You could speak with it, you could talk, you could chat, you could type with it. You can't talk to him, to it, or whatever. Right now, I'm sure it will happen, but it appears intelligent. And that started the whole thing. That's when we started, everybody on the planet started talking about and using an intelligent thing, an intelligent assistant. So what it does is this. Like I said, how does this work? It predicts the next thing in a series. You ask a question, how do I build a website with Joomla? And they have billions, literally, of information about whoever or whatever everybody in the past said about pretty much everything. So when you ask, how can I build a website with Joomla, then they try to predict the most likely word after that. So it's going to be probably the. Then they have a new phrase. How can I build a website with Joomla? The best way, and so on. So they add words one after the other. And the consequence is that it looks very intelligent. I'm a bit ahead of my time, but it's not. It's simply not. I insist on how it's working because it has an impact on how we are going to be able to use it or not. So one thing with the current ChatGPT is that it's trained on data up only to the end of 2021, so it doesn't know anything about recent events, and that's on purpose because ChatGPT is really a testing ground. It's something that they are doing to learn about things. On March 14, there is GPT-4, the next version of the model, which is supposedly much more powerful. It's a very limited availability. You know, they have taken money from Microsoft. Microsoft is also offering ChatGPT or GPT-4 inside their Bing products and many other products, Office 365 and other things. But the key point for most of these is that it's limited availability. It's kind of slow and so on, as we'll see later. The interesting part, though, is that, and OpenAI is really the only one that's really available today, is that they have an API. So we can use, not ChatGPT, because it's not really available through the API yet, but we can use their software and their architecture and their resources to do things. So what's the immediate consequence of all of that? What you hear a lot, programmers, I don't see what's there. Programmers are going to be out of job, or they are already, or maybe it's next year, but we are all going to be out of a job. AI can create a website, so all the integrators in this room are going to be out of a job by the end of the year. Translators are out of the job because it translates perfectly. Writers to write content for marketing are not needed anymore. The internet will be flooded with low quality content. SEO is dead, as like every year. And Google is dead, of course, because now we have an answer and can go to ChatGPT. So I'll let you decide on where you want to put true or false there. I'm pretty sure that most translators are going to have a rough time in the coming years. I don't think SEO is dead, and I don't think Google is dead, by and large. And this, it'll likely happen at least in the first times. We'll see how it turns, but this is going to happen. So in reality, what I have seen and what you've probably seen is that all these systems are full of bugs, and we like to call them hallucinating. They are hallucinating, but I don't like to use the word hallucinating because I want to keep that word for me. Like, I'm a human and I can hallucinate, but these guys, they're just having bugs. They're not working, and that's a very important thing to keep in mind when you're using them. The second thing is that they are very slow at the moment, at least through the API. Even if you use them, through ChatGPT and so on, the Google one is much faster. That's interesting. And they, of course, consume a lot of resources and energy and power and electricity. Not that so many people care, but they do. They are not reliable for knowledge. You can't ask ChatGPT for factual information. They know things, but they may also invent things totally. Like, I have an example, I think later. But they can do some things very, very well. And it's just starting. So it's going to be evolving. And maybe it's a bit early to be talking about using 4AI and doing an extension for that, but I hope it's not. We'll see. So the first and immediate consequence, and what I'm working on is being SEO, is what is the impact on search engines and websites, the websites you're building. And what I'm seeing when I've been using Bing, and I have a screenshot because something came up from Google just yesterday, is that you cannot like I said, you cannot use ChatGPT as a search engine. It's not gonna, it can do things, but it's not a source of information or factual information. So you still need a search engine behind it. If you look at what Bing has been doing, they have integrated the ChatGPT technology, GPT-4, into their Bing search engines. And what they are doing is that they are not using GPT to give you information. They are making searches into Bing, the existing Bing, the current search engines, and then they put that into ChatGPT to give you an answer that's easier to use. So instead of sending you to a website websites search for what you're looking for, no, it's not the right information. I go back to Bing and I try another one. They pull all that information and they put it through ChatGPT so that it can explain things to you. That's how they are working, but there's still a search engine behind. And Google is exactly doing the same thing. And so this has the consequence that first, if you're a website owner, there are two consequences. If you want to be part of that game, you still need to be found, and you still need to be indexed by search engines, and you still need to rank. You still need to do things so that your website is going to be ahead of the other guy's website. Otherwise, it's not your website or your content or your products that ChatGPT or others are going to offer in their response. So the game is pretty much the same. And the second thing is, if you are ahead of the others and ChatGPT is proposing using, let's say, GPT instead, or the AI is offering your website or the content of your website as a reply, are they going to send you people back? Because people will have the answer. So that's the big issue. Bing has started first, and we can see they are not sending much traffic back to websites. Just yesterday, Google, they are much more careful. I mean, they are the big leaders, so they are very careful about maintaining that and still providing a good service. They've been also using AI for many years. So they came up with the first draft of what their search engine is going to be starting sometimes. And the way it's going to work is that you're still going to ask questions. I know it's pretty small, but here people are going to ask a question in search bar like they do today. And they are going to have basically two sections. This one is going to be generated through AI. That's going to be the answer they think they can provide to you. And it's optional. Maybe they won't offer you anything. So it's really what you could get from their current tool, but and then you'll have what you could call traditional results. So that's I just added it earlier because it came out yesterday at Google I/O. So, and there's going to be also some additional information coming up here, likewise suggested, but from sources and with links. So the global picture today is that it's likely not going to change that much because Google is still by far the biggest search engine, and they are very cautious about having you providing them, I mean, it's my guess, but they are still cautious about having you providing them information for free so that they can display results and make money. So,
how do they make money from it?
oh, I mean, obviously they didn't put ads because this is from Google I/O from talk, with Sundar, the CEO explaining this is how it's going to work. So they didn't put ads. There will be ads, of course. Somebody has to pay for all these GPUs and data center and electricity, and that's same for Bing, by the way. We also had numbers yesterday that came out about Bing Chat, the Bing search engine, and although it had a big push at the start of this year, it gained some market share. It's actually going down now. It's actually worse than what it was a year ago. So they have like the big hype, and then they are going down. They are roughly 1% less than a year ago. The numbers here. So Bing desktop market share is 7%, 7.41. It was in October. It was nearly 10, and globally, desktop, mobile, and tablet, they are at 2.8%. And a year ago, they were at 3.5. So they had a big push on that, but maybe they spent 10 billion for not that much. Okay, so my point here, I think you get that, is that we're going to continue having websites. We're going to continue having to rank in search engines. The search engines are going to change, but the basis is likely going to be the same. Now, that doesn't mean we cannot use AI to help us. And my current assessment, and that's where you can see differences, is that if you try to use AI and you use ChatGPT for that in your website, I see many different top things or areas where you can use AI. To create content, to me, it's a mixed bag. There are things that are pretty good, and there are things that are pretty bad. The quality of the content, the mistakes that are in the content they create, the general style, if you wish, the lack of originality, the blandness, it's still pretty common in many things. And that's something Google in particular has been fighting a lot for the last years with their so-called helpful content updates, trying to identify content that's really unique and useful to people, to users. So, and AI tends to produce a lot of content that's not really helpful. That's anybody could have written. So there's a problem here. Translation, that's working. That's working fine. For AI, which is released tomorrow, which is released later today, when I'm done here, I'm going to publish it. It's available from the start in 22 languages, including Arabic and Chinese. And yeah, I speak 3 languages, more or less, and the rest is just automated. And it's pretty, I mean, I'm a native French speaker, and I can tell you that the translation out of 800 language streams in the extension, I had to change two expressions because they were really specific English kind of jokes, so I didn't get that right. So it's working. And there are things it can do when doing text processing, which includes for me summarization, writing description and title, and shortening things. It's pretty good. And there are things where if you ask it to expand or restyle, rewrite for you, it's so-so. And you can see the pattern here. When it works on something existing on some text, and you ask it to transform it into something, it's good. It's working from English to French or Spanish or Dutch. Summarizing text, it works perfectly. Writing a meta description, it works perfectly. But if you ask it to create something new, it's a mixed bag. It can work. Philip, you were telling me about experiences where you had good success, but I would argue that it's still a lengthy process. It might be faster than writing everything yourself, but it's still a lengthy process usually to you start with a version, then you have to ask it to change it and modify until you get really something. But most of this is at least my experience.
At the end, what we actually did, because it was text against it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a very strong topic where AI is very good. It's search. Again, it's about the same thing. You have content on your website, and we can build tools that are excellent and are so much better than whatever you can have on your website today, even if you were using Google search or things like that. Problem is you need a special type of database, and so it's not something that you can run on your regular hosting with your MySQL server that you're running on. So you need an external service, an external database called a vector database. So this is going to be happening, but it's not something we are going to talk about right now. But it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. The various providers available for us. There is OpenAI, which are the ChatGPT makers. Azure OpenAI, which is the cloud service for Microsoft. They are using OpenAI technology. Their API we can use to build products is not really, it's available, but it's not really available because it's only for the managed customers. So if amongst your clients, you've got companies with a few tens of thousands of employees, you can probably access that. But the regular people like me, we just can't access that. There are companies like Cohere, I have no idea how you pronounce that. Cohere, OneAI, which are okay, but they are really expensive. Like just Cohere, OneAI, you start like $30 per month for a limited number of for limited resources. Claude is not available there. It's made by people coming from that went out of OpenAI. They wanted to keep being open source. And Hugging Face, which is more like a do-it-yourself company. They are hosting open source models, and they also provide infrastructure on which you can run your own models. So it's very interesting, but it's really hands-on. You have to work on it. Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit of perspective what I think is going to happen. But I think where we are heading and what's really going to be interesting if when we manage to train these models on our own data, like within your company. And there are applications like building a knowledge base or preserving your company know-how. I mean, obviously, I'm a 1.5-person company, so all the knowledge is also in my head and in my computer. But if you're a bigger organization, there's always the issue of preserving your knowledge and welcoming and training new people coming in, and that's something that I'll be very good at. You can use that internally or with customers, replying, chatbot replying to customers, they're going to be a thing. But again, for this to work, you can't use ChatGPT. You need to have a chatbot that talks to your customers on your website, but train on your own data. So there's a little bit of work to be happening, and that's not really yet, because these models like ChatGPT or Bard for, I don't know how it's called with Google, but the API, they are really expensive to train, and it's really difficult, and it takes a lot of time if you want to retrain them or fine-tune them with your own data. So it can be done, obviously, but it takes work and it takes money. And it's an interesting thing happening is like every day, basically, you've got new smaller models, which are open source. Probably the most famous ones are GPT-4o-J and Mosaic ML. They were released. Mosaic ML released 2 models like last Friday. So maybe what I'm saying is outdated because this morning somebody released another open source model. But the nice thing about these is that they are much smaller than the big guys, and you can essentially you can try GPT-4o, you can run it on your laptop, your computer. It's not that fast, but you can definitely run it, and meaning you can also train it on your own data. So it's just a brick. You need to do a lot of things more before you can use that to help your website or to help your customers. But it's there. So I expect that in the coming year or so, it's gonna be changing in this direction or another direction, which I don't know. Okay, so from all these, I decided to create an extension for Joomla. Right from the start, Rick is not here, but there's been a couple or a few plugins created for Joomla where basically you have a button in your editor and it would open up and you could type a question and you get some content back, and you could click on another button and that will be sent into your editor. So that's interesting, but I think that's pretty limited for various reasons that we'll see later. One of the reasons is that the chat, like I said earlier, the ChatGPT model and Bing Chat are using rather weak model. Bard is coming up, which is from Google. It's the equivalent from Google. It's available now in all countries. It was only in the US until these days, so you might probably be able to use it now. Bard uses stronger models because it's trained with pretty much day-to-day, very recent data. It doesn't have the 2021 cutoff date. And it's also much faster. They have a bigger infrastructure. Obviously, you see they've been using AI for a long time. But the thing is, prompting is hard. To get to actual results, it's kind of hard, and it takes time also. So I thought there would be things we could be doing with an extension. And here are the four. There are two on this one and two on the next one. Fields where I identified things you could do with AI within Joomla. You can transform content, you can create, you can do SEO, and you can do social things. So back to transform, we'll see that later, but you can do things like transforming existing content, spelling, write summary, obviously translate. You can change the style with caution. You can rewrite for keywords. I'm an SEO guy at the start, so I tend to still focus on keywords, maybe a bit too much. I can help write text, but then I can have a specialized tool that prompts for you and make it write email rather than something that actually looks like an email without having your customers having to prompt and ask specifically for an email format. Same for having an outline of a blog or writing a blog, which I don't tend to use because it's not that good. And you can make it easy. When you write an article about something, or you write an outline, and then you ask it to expand into an article, or you type it something, you can now, for AI, you can ask it to directly create a new article. And if the thing you're creating is a translation from an existing article, then it will create the article, and it will also create the association, because you don't want to have to do that. And if there's already an existing associations, then it's going to be updating the translation rather than creating a new one. So this is really about getting an interface that makes it easier for you. And when we talk about SEO, there are a few things we can do. We can obviously search for titles. We will offer you to write titles. Description, extract keywords so that you can use that into your ads campaigns or things like that. You could find related keywords for you. We can find hashtags if you want to publish on Instagram or otherwise. And talking about social, you can create Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts and tweet. It's very good at tweeting. I've made a lot of, it's really easy, and you can tweet right away from the user interface. So all these things, and I'm going to show you that, are not just titles. They are not suggestions about, I can go to ChatGPT, type something and ask it to create a tweet for me. What I wanted to do is an interface that lets you just click on things so that you can have a tweet created for you without having to write a prompt. Because you may be able to write a prompt for creating a tweet, or writing a good title or a description, but maybe your users are not. There are some current limitations that I am aware of. The only really available API to power this is the OpenAI one. It's rather slow. The time it takes to reply depends on how much text it generates. So if you want it to generate just a title, it's going to be rather quick. If you want it to write a blog, it's going to be a minute. And it was up until the end of January, it was seconds. But then they picked up really, and I don't know what happened. Maybe they favored their paid they started their $20 a month subscription, so maybe they're putting all their GPUs towards that. I don't know, but the API has gone really slow. I expect that to improve, but still, it's quite okay. I mean, it's a little bit bothering to have to wait for it, but it's quite okay. There's a limit on the size. They can only work out of 4,000 tokens, which, depending on the language, can be around 3,000 words, and that includes the question and the reply. GPT-4 has 8,000 or 32,000 limits, but it's not available yet. It's in beta. Nobody has access to it through the API. And finally, for AI, today is going to be released as a 1.0. It's new. Things are going to be broken, and things will evolve. If you want to provide feedback, it's more than welcome. And I hope that very soon other providers will provide APIs, so we have more choice than this one. Okay, now the difficult side. I'm going to try and show you how it works. No, it's not difficult time. Okay. I hope you can see. Okay, so I need to switch to that. So this is a regular Joomla 4 website with the demo content. And I just want to say it works the same in Joomla 3. It doesn't matter. And so I'm just going to go very rapidly through several pages. There is a component for it. So you access it here. It's also very terribly slow. I think my machine, I forgot to press record. Yeah, you have it. So my machine is kind of struggling with everything it has. This is a local server. But the component really is not where you're going to go for anything. It's just showing you some statistics about how many tokens and how many requests you've made by type. And it also lists the requests that were made, what type of request was, and what was the text it worked on, and so on. So far, that's not really developed, and that's not how you're going to use. So I'm just going to go to the list of articles. And again, this is a very contrived demonstration because it's a demonstration. So I have here. So if you go away from the homepage, what you're going to see is this. It's a small icon, and that's going to be the assistant. You put it wherever you like. And when you open it, there's a couple of there are a couple of shortcuts that you can open it without typing on it. So when you click on it, you have the interface, and this is where you'll be able. So you can open this wherever you like in Joomla, except for the homepage, basically, and pages where it doesn't make sense. But basically anywhere, like you are in a listing, like you're in Hikashop or K2 on Joomla 3 or Virtumart or just Joomla articles, and depending on where you are, it's going to be slightly different, but it's going to be roughly what we see here. So I was just on the list of articles, so there's no input data. So at the very basic form, you've got transform. You can create things, you can do SEO, and you can do social. And from here, you can type some text and do spelling, expanding, and so on. All these features that we're going to see here. Obviously, that's not so interesting. So if you do that and that's where you can start creating content if you don't have a base. But if you start editing an article, and again, sorry about that, you can see that Joomla itself is pretty slow. If you start editing an article here on the back end, or here, if I do the same here, and I try to edit this article on the front end, it's going to work. It's going to work the same. Yeah, so I have my little thing here. And so I'm going to just go back to the back end, just to point out it's the same thing. So when you open it here, you've got your editor content, which is here. So you can the most obvious thing for me is grammar, and I would like to just to show you that, because when we say spelling, yeah, you probably already have some spelling solution, but what this kind of thing do is that they not only do the spelling, but they also look at the grammar, and they also look at the style. So you got a selector here, depending on the style of text you want to have. But just even without that, this particular article, I wrote it with some errors in it on purpose. So in the very simplest way, I'm going to ask it to submit the request. I was on spelling grammar, so I wanted to check the the results. And now is the problem, because I need to speak for like 45 seconds without really saying anything, because there's nothing happening on the screen except this thing spelling. But I hope it's going to be very good, and you're going to see it's going to find the issues that I put there. When I tried yesterday and this morning, it found them. So I hope it's going to be working okay. And the other thing I wanted to show it is, because I don't like that, I also created this little thing here, which is just for this demonstration, where because the request and the responses are recorded internally for logging. And so I made a little thing, and we'll use that for the next demonstration steps of the demonstration, so that I get the response immediately, and you're not bored, and I don't have to speak for 45 seconds without saying anything. So here it is. You got the response from the API. And in that particular case, for spelling, for shortening, for expanding text, for rewriting for keywords, it's a little bit difficult, because you've got a bunch of text and you don't know what change. So of course, I've made a show suggested the difference with the changes it's made. And so here I had a double C. That's just spelling essentially. It tells me here that because this is British English or just English, I needed a comma right here between the Friday and the May 12. And I had this phrase that I, on purpose, made it really complex and hard to read. I think it was how somebody can use them to improve your Joomla website functionality and user experience better. So it was really absolutely correct and not very well written. And so it fixed it. It made it simpler, more correct, and easier to read. So the title here is Spelling and Grammar, but it's really about rewriting for, I don't know the right word for that, but it makes it correct. It makes it good. And that's huge, because it means when you're creating content, we're all doing that. You know, day after day, we write articles, and there might be, especially if you're not a native speaker, but most people are going to be entering content as in their native language. But even with that, when I'm writing in French, sometimes I just write too fast, or I don't pay attention, or I copy paste something and it doesn't fit. And so it's going to be catching all of that. So the quality should improve vastly just with this. And that's not something you get with that's not something you get with just a regular thing. You might get that with grammar extensions like Grammarly, but now you have that everywhere. So there are many things you can do from there. You can replace the editor content. In some cases, you can append to the editor content, but now I have just replaced the editor content with my fixes, and then I can close that and go back to saving or fixing my editor. I'll show you more with this later. You can modify the response if you want to reprocess a response for a different purpose. Now it's fixed, but maybe I want to add some more keywords that are missing. So you can just reprocess the response, or you can start again and modify the request. And you can save as a new article, but I'll show you that on another occasion. So I'm just going to go back to this. I have the original version here, so I'm going to go quickly on this, shorten, expand, and so on, summarize, because I'll show you more. Let me see. So I have like 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to speed up a little bit. You can change the style, and in each case, you have different settings. You can always write custom instructions if you want to modify what's going on. But the normal use of this is that the prompts send out to the extensions, to the API, are written very carefully and pay and are made so that you get a good result each time. And it shows very much when, okay, I'm going to show you translate, but sorry, I'm going to switch to cheating and using a recorded response that I did last year, so yesterday. So when you want to translate, you select a language amongst the language that you have on your site, you submit the request, and if all goes well, without having to wait for 45 seconds, you got an answer. And this is really what we get. I got that yesterday. Simply, I had to wait, maybe it's not too long, maybe 30 seconds. So not only has it translated, and I picked Dutch so that you can look at what it does. I hope it's good because I have no idea. But so it translated the contents of the article, but it also created in one go. You don't have to reprompt. It created a title, and it created a meta description for it. And it did that because of the prompt, not by itself, because we are prompting it to do it based on the translation. So it did not translate the title. It translated the content, the article, and then from that new translated content, I asked it to create a title and create a meta description. So that's where you got a new article, and we are going to save that here. And when you click on save this as a new article, well, it prompts you, it gives you the title. You can select a category. So because the original article was in a category that was already associated with in English, that was already associated with a category in Dutch, then it detected that. It offers you to save in the category. You can pick other category as well. You can select if it's an old language or an NL language. The translation is here, and then you can save as a new article. Okay. Slow Joomla, slow me, and then so it's been translated under ID, and I can click here to edit the article if I want to. It's unpublished at the start, so you can just go there and publish it. So that's a pretty neat workflow for translating and having high quality translation. So if I go back to this now, and I go back to modifying the request, I'm going to skip very quickly on creating, just to show you that. I don't remember if I have an email stored, but you you can get a very different result. Like in this instance, email doesn't mean an email to send to, or likely not an email to send to your customer. Here, we are more likely creating a newsletter in AC mailing or that sort of thing. That's what we want to do. So again, you can change the purpose of the text you're going to create. You can change the tone, you can change the language, and there are more options which are kind of important sometimes. For instance, you can add it here, ask it to focus on specific keywords that you want to appear in the text. And you want also, and I found that really useful, you might want to say here things like the company I work with or the organization specializes in Joomla search engine optimization, because it will help it focus on something that matters to you, really. So you've got all of that, and then you can write the topic of your letters. Because it's a recorded session, I don't need to actually write a topic. Yeah. Oh, I didn't record an email. Sorry about that. I think I may have a paragraph. I have no idea. Nope. Yeah. If that's the only things going wrong in this demo, I'll be happy. Yeah. So I recorded a blog post creation. So this is what you get in the end. Likewise, you get the content, you get a title, and you get a meta description, and then you can save that as a new article, just like we did before. It's not translation, so there's no automatic selection of the category. You can see the settings. I think you got the picture. You can also, and that's probably allows me a swift move. You can take what you just created here, and you can go to SEO. In SEO, you can do a few things. You can write a page title. So if I, let me start again. It was not a good idea. So if I start from here and I want to do SEO, I can ask it to, it's got the content from the article. You can ask it to write a title for you or to write a meta description, for instance. Again, you've got optional focus keywords and style. You can have a funny description or a funny title. I don't know which one I have, so I'm going to remove that. And when you ask it to do that, it will do, so this was a meta description. It will offer you a few proposals. And if you click here, this is going to be sent to the article you are editing. If you are editing an article, obviously. If you're not editing an article, you just have description based on the text you can paste in. Of course, you can paste it text at any time. You got the same thing for a page title. And I think I have recorded also a session for that. So you can ask it to extract keywords. So you can either get an article content or anything really that's an editor in a Joomla editor. It doesn't have to be, it can be a product description again in Virtumart or anything. You can ask it to extract keywords. And when you do that, yeah, it will try and find the main semantically important keywords in your content. Then it will suggest a bunch of related keywords that are not in your page. So these are suggestions you can use in two ways. You can use them in campaigns, in ads, in tweets, on social, anywhere you like. Or you can ask them, you can use them, they're probably the most important ones actually. You can use them to rewrite your content. Maybe you can think, okay, no, I need to include user behavior in my text. This is important to wanted keyword. Or another really important use, and I can't really help for that at the moment, but this can be used to suggest linking, internal linking within your content. So if you have an article that talks about algorithms, then you can link to or from this particular article you've just written with this topic.
So if you want to copy those related keywords,
yeah.
Copy all, you go back to the article and you can ask to rewrite it using those keywords?
Sure, yeah. If you want to use it this way, you can include some of them. Again, you have to be careful and you have to work and you have to learn how it works. If you just copy all and put them in the input field where I have rewrite for these keywords, you're going to have a mess. Mm-hmm. What I see more of this for is that I have written an article, done a good thing, or I have asked it to write an article. I've done a good job. It's working. I didn't think about these keywords, and they are semantically related, and maybe I can use that, or I can use them because, like I said, I have an article on my site talking about sites performance. So maybe I want to link. I realized I want to link this article to I want to make links to my site performance article, or the other way around. I want to go to this site performance, which is well ranking, and I'm going to put a link to this new one because it's going to help this new one rank.
Could we put those straight into the keywords underneath the meta description? Because what I use on some of mine is the module, the core module,
yeah,
associated articles, and that would be ideal. Because that picks from keywords.
Yeah, you're right.
Associates articles.
No, I like I said, I'm an SEO guy, so I tend to say that meta keywords don't exist. But I know there's this use that the related articles use the keywords information. Yeah, right. Yeah, you think?
Put keywords in.
You see, I already have work to do now. I have to add a button here and copy to the keywords. Okay, so that's I think we're running out of time, and so I wanted to show you the last part. Modify the request. So I have this thing, and I can go here to create Facebook posts and tweet or LinkedIn posts based on this content. So if you do Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts, they are really related. It's really about the same. You have more options here to change the text style and the target languages. So really something that I mentioned. You write an article in Dutch. Now you can easily create a Facebook post or a tweet or a LinkedIn post in French, Spanish, and English. in a few seconds. It's going to be okay. But you don't have to, fortunately. The main option we have left here is to optionally end with a question. So when you write the Facebook post or the LinkedIn post, you have an option to ask it to end your post with a question, an open question. It's pretty good at that because it's creating the question, but it's creating on existing content, so it's doing pretty well. So for instance, I don't know, a Facebook post, and it's in Dutch and it's informal. I think I have recorded something here. Yeah, so you get that. And because it's informal, in the prompt, we allow it to use emojis, for instance. And it picked up the image that if you have an intro image or a full image, it will pick it up and give you the link here, so that when you copy, there's no way to create a Facebook post directly. At least now you would need to work with the Facebook API. It's really complex. So right now you're just going to copy all that and then you can paste it to Facebook. Now you can also do that with Twitter, and with Twitter we have a bit more options. Let me remove these. No, actually there's a language that's interesting. So with Twitter, you can just ask it to create a few tweets for you based on your content, and it does that. So again, it creates the text, but we also asked it to create some hashtags that are included. It will pick up the image, the intro or full image if you have one, and then you can either copy it or you can just click it here and tweet directly. So obviously, crap, you don't see that. Okay. Oh, yeah, I can't even show you. You'll have to come around and see, but I have a it's not captured for some reason by this. I don't know why. So I am in Twitter and I have that, and I just have to press send to send the tweet. So it's straight from the interface here. And oh, it's really bad. I didn't see that coming. And we have this option here. Sometimes you want to have something a bit longer. So, tweets, even at 280 characters, they are a bit longer. So you can ask it to create a thread instead. And you select the tweet thread. And I think I have that. So from it's doing this. So you have the text of the first tweet. You have that emoji of a tweet representing a tweet thread. You've got the numbering, you've got the hashtags, you've got the image if you have one in your original content, and you've got the link to the page in question. And now you've got the numbered following up tweet, and each of them have a tweet button, which again I can use, but you'll have to come around to see how it works. I can show you actually at any time, and then you can simply click on this. You'll have the Twitter pop-up that appears here. Click edit, click send, click the second one, click send, and so on. You have that. You can. I mean, it's the start. Maybe you can think of a more complex workflow, but it's working today. And so the whole thing, I think I'm through with what I wanted to show to you, because again we are a bit out of time. But the whole thing is about using these API, these artificial intelligence API, where we are sure they're going to provide good results, and integrate them into Joomla enough so that it really saves time for everybody. Like most of you, I'm sure you're pretty advanced in terms of using these tools already, and you can work your way through prompting and getting good results. But I'm afraid, I know for a fact that most people will struggle if you just put them a new tab with ChatGPT and go create content. It's going to be, they'll do something, but it's going to be difficult and it's not going to be good. Okay. And there's one last thing that I wanted to say. You can see that many people focus on creating content, but for me, I even thought about putting the create tab at the far end, because that's definitely not what I would think of using this for. That's definitely not where I believe they are the best, and there are differing opinions on that. Just remember that in many cases, it's just as for creating new content from scratch, it's just as good opening a new tab and having ChatGPT and and discuss with it about that. Because at this stage, at least, ChatGPT and Bard are going to have the latest models. For instance, the API here is using the GPT 3.5 Turbo model, which is the last generation. GPT-4 is not available. With ChatGPT, if you're lucky or if you pay, you can have GPT-4, which is much better already today. And we don't have that yet. So I would suggest that you create content that way, and then you rework it here, or you use the features that we seen very quickly today to your advantage to save time and make your clients save time. That's the whole point, basically. So it's not probably. I mean, I'm using it. I'm using it, but the point is that it's really meant for customers, for clients creating content. I think that's it for me.
We're using the OpenAI API, and it costs money.
Sure.
You can have the tokens and also the costs
Yeah.
inside, so it's really nice that you can have a sort of view about what it will cost.
Yeah.
What if they change prices? Can you change it here in the program, or is it something?
No, it's a if you want to get technical, it's a JSON file. Well, it's not a JSON file. It's something that I can update. It's not done yet, but it's something I'm used to that. I'm doing it with ACID 447 for many years and UBM, so I can update that remotely.
Okay.
The thing is with the cost, I did this and I spent a lot of time because calculating the tokens is really difficult. You have to use one of their libraries. It looks simple, but it works roughly. If you do something super simple, it works in English, but if you use another language, it's completely off. So you have to use the actual library and compute the real. So these are the real tokens, and these ones that you see here. And this is taking into account the prompt as well. So it's not exactly what I just typed in a few letters, and there are 300 tokens, because it takes into account the prompt that's being built under the surface. I forgot what it was. Yeah. So I was very cautious about that because the API costs money. I was worried about that, so that's why I built this from the very start. And then using it, I realized there are so many zeros before the dot here. It literally costs nothing. I've been developing this for let's say certainly all of April. That's the first bill I got. I've been doing a lot of requests, and I paid $1.31. $1.31. So for most people, the cost is not going to be an issue. But okay, it's there. You can see that. Maybe the tokens is the more important part because you have a limit. So it tells you the tokens you already used for the question, and it tells you how much remains. And the problem is in these remaining tokens, you also have the reply. And we don't know what's going to reply, so we can't evaluate that. But that's minor. It's rarely an issue. Sometimes you have to split and copy a few things, but yeah. Good questions. Yeah. And, any other question? If not, I'm here for the next few days or for next week.
A more general question about ChatGPT. If you use it, do you use it in English and then translate stuff to French, or do you also use it in French? I mean, what's your experience with it?
So my experience is that it's not very good because maybe you can ask Daniel about that, because I've always been using it in English. This extension, what it does all the prompting in English, and then it ejects your input in whatever language, saying, okay, the prompt is in English, but there might be other instructions in other languages, and it works. So I've been told it's better in English. Frankly, I've prompted it in French also a few times. Frankly, it works. I mean, your experience is just as good as mine on that. Okay, I'm around. You can ask questions if you want to have a... Because I'm done now, I'm going to sit at my laptop for the next hour or so and publish it on the website. So it's going to be available an hour or so from now on Weber.com. It's a paid-for extension, and there will be a free version available with only a subset of the features there. So it's going to be available like an hour or so from now, so you can play with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ok, on va arrêter tous les enregistrements maintenant.